ahead of Tyler Reddick to win on Sunday. Jimmy Johnson secured third place, marking his best finish since returning as a part-time driver for Legacy Motor Club. In the East Coast Hockey League, Josh Wilkins scored the decisive goal in overtime, securing a victory for the South Carolina Stingrays over the Jacksonville Icemen in an away game for second place. That's your local sports update. I'm Sam Nelson.
Right now, 51 degrees at 11:59. Time and 10 brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, get ready to spend the next 2 hours with our three sports-loving ladies. Mia O'Brien, Lauren Brooks, and Taylor Dawes.
Hey. This is Helmets and Heels
On 1010XL, switched on by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
Show me what you got, pretty lady.
Welcome into a Big Chief Tire Monday here on Helmets and Heels. Taylor Dahl is here. RJ Saunders is here. I'm Lauren Brooks. Mia O'Brien will rejoin us tomorrow after her vacation. Lots to get into today. Not as much football necessarily, Taylor, but a whole lot of sports over the weekend. I always find it funny when people are like, well, what do you do after football season? And I'm like, have you heard of other sports? Like Friday night locked into gymnastics, Saturday locked into college basketball, yesterday locked into, I tried to lock into NASCAR, the Daytona 500, but I had to wait several hours, obviously, with the weather delay. But certainly locked into the PGA Tour.
Every year, I feel like the last few years, there's been delays every single time.
I agree. And here's what I didn't understand. And I wonder if NASCAR decided to go ahead and start the race knowing they'd have to stop right away because they had such great festivities leading up to it. And so I wondered, because of the pomp and circumstance, I wondered if
they're like, let's just get it going at least.
Because, all the adrenaline builds, and then they only had 11 laps in before, obviously, the caution flag for the weather delay. In my mind, if I was the one organizing it, if I was the head official at NASCAR, I would have said, we're going to wait and delay everything until we know for sure the weather has passed. But like you said, it happens every year.
Yeah.
You wish almost that they could have run it on Saturday, but I know they have other stuff going on. But we're obviously not a NASCAR show, but I was ready to lock into it yesterday and then had to wait several hours. And they do a good job certainly filling the time. They have interviews with drivers who are just goofing off basically, which that's also got to be weird to get all of that emotion invested and then literally stop for several hours.
Just shut it off and and not know when there's like any chance that you're coming back out, because obviously it's a guesstimate when it comes to the weather. And we've had day delays in the past.
Usually they'll finish on the Monday if there's a weather delay. They were able at least to get it in last night.
Yeah. It's like this first weekend after the Super Bowl is always a little weird though, because it does feel it's that obviously first weekend without football, but it's also that little bit of in between before like the combine really picks up and you're not quite there yet, but you still feel like it's football season and it's not. And so it always is a little weird that first weekend. Like the amount of people that texted me and said, no football today. This is weird. I'm like, I know. It's, what do you guys do? And I'm like, well, there's a lot of other things going on. But
we had the test run the weekend before. Yes, there was a Pro Bowl, but that's not the same. Yeah. So that weekend before the Super Bowl, you kind of get adjusted to this is life without football. And on the one hand, it is kind of nice to be able to take in so many other sports. Like football season, Thursday night, obviously if you go to high school games on Friday night, all Saturday, all Sunday, and then Monday night, it's all football. Like you really aren't getting any other sports involved. And so that part is kind of nice that it's spread out amongst lots of different things. But I do understand for the people who are football only, and there are people that work at 1010XL
that
who
are
football only. I understand it's kind of like the lost time until, like you said, the combine. Then there's free agency. Then we have OTAs. And then 6 weeks later, it happens so fast. We're back to training camp, and here we go again. So speaking of training camp and the Jaguars, they have now 5 finalists, as everyone saw, that they're going to interview in person starting Wednesday morning. The Bears assistant general manager, Ian Cunningham. And no, we're not going to get deep into the Bears again for everyone who complains on that. The Rams director of scouting strategy, James Gladstone. The Green Bay Packers vice president of player personnel, John Eric Sullivan. The Jaguars interim general manager, Ethan Waugh, who certainly we've talked a lot about. And then San Francisco 49ers director, scouting and football operations, Josh Williams. Here's the one to me, Taylor, that is very intriguing. John Eric Sullivan was not amongst the initial list of interview requests that the Jaguars placed. And again, he's the Packers Vice President of Player Personnel. I'm intrigued by him because he has connections to Jacksonville. His dad, Jerry Sullivan, was a wide receivers coach here in Jacksonville for 5 seasons. Obviously, the Anthony Campanile connection, the now Jaguars defensive coordinator, they knew each other with the Packers. And even more importantly to me than the connections, he's been at this a long time. And we see so much newness, so much youth, certainly, when it comes to the Jaguars staff so far. But I like that he's someone that he's been with the Packers since 2004. Yeah. And the Packers are such a winning organization. And I know you don't want to talk positive, glowing things about the Packers. But year in and year out, they draft really well. So I'm really intrigued by him. I know, like we said, we've talked so much about Ian Cunningham. We've talked about James Gladstone with the Rams because he's pretty much gone viral with social media. And we've talked about Ethan Waugh because those are the ones we know the most about. But I just wonder, is there something going on with the John Eric Sullivan since he was added later?
Yeah, and it's interesting because that's the first thing that came to my mind is obviously that connection with Campanile because, and you can say the same thing with Gladstone too. Obviously, Liam Cohen had time with the Rams, and so those when you have the familiar parts of it, I'm sure that does help because they know these people beyond just reading about them or I know them through or somebody told me that this person like Ian Cunningham, someone that's been talked about for a few years. So that's a name people know just in that realm, but how much do people know in depth of what he's really done? And that's Mike and I were kind of talking about that in crosstalk of how hands-on are all of these people in their organizations. And the Packers are such an interesting one because they don't have an owner. And I've talked about this a lot on a lot of podcasts of how functional they've been able to be is because of that. They don't have this one guy at the top that has to make all of these decisions in the football world, in the business world. And we know there's different types of owners. There's Jerry Jones owners, there's Shad Khan owners, there's the in-between of ones. And sometimes I feel like they're too hands-on. Sometimes you feel like they're not hands-on enough. Sometimes you feel like they don't know football enough. Sometimes you feel like they try and know football too much and it doesn't work out. The Packers don't have to deal with that. So that one is fascinating to me just because the things are run so differently in Green Bay, but also somebody coming to a place like this who now does have an owner in Shad Khan, has an EVP, has all of these other pieces that are kind of around what is the order that he's going to want to see things happening here in Jacksonville. And I'm sure that's conversations they're going to have. You're coming from an organization that doesn't have one guy at the top telling you what to do.
And the Packers certainly tend to have consistency. Right? They don't change coaches a lot. They have had the same general manager since 2018. And when you have that stability and consistency, you're able to build for the future. And so even if the director of scouting or pro personnel, even if those guys change, the guys that are making the most important decisions at the top remain the same. And so that's something that I want Jacksonville, the Jaguars, to model themselves after is I want us to be talking about how smart of a hire the general manager was the week of February 17th, 2025, 10 years from now.
Yes, and I think that's one of the most important parts. And we've talked a lot about what you want out of a general manager and how we joke about the bulky stuff and the short arms and how it's refreshing to not have to think about like this zoned in thought process when it comes to the draft. But there's a lot of other things that these general managers are doing, and you want the longevity because the organizations that have had consistent winning are all the ones that have that. And it's people that are coming in here. And when you're talking about, it helps if you're drafting you have 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks back to back. That helps your organization win a lot more. But a lot of people say that Trevor can be that guy with the right surroundings and the right coaching and getting him back to the level where we've seen glimpses of him playing. And so if you get the right person in here who now is drafting and making this about Trevor Lawrence, which we've heard Liam Cohen say that now, we've heard Udinsky say that now, this is about Trevor Lawrence and building everything around him because this is his team. You just gave this quarterback a lot of money for a lot of years, and that's where it starts. And so finding somebody like the Green Bay Packers who have had that success at quarterback, they know how to do that. They know how to build, and they've been different. Like Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love are 3 different types of quarterbacks and have done different things. Brett Favre was more of that gunslinger type of guy. Aaron Rodgers was really smart when it comes to the snap counts and getting people to jump and just manipulating defenses. And Jordan Love's not quite to that level, but they've made him in moments where people are like, did they do it again? And just imagine that. Imagine having 3 straight quarterbacks where you're like, this is it. We can win with this guy.
Yeah, I'd like to imagine that. At least the quarterback here is on his second contract. Jordan Love already has his second contract, even though that came after only 1 year of playing. Obviously not a rookie year since he sat behind Aaron Rodgers. But it is knowing when to draft another quarterback.
Yeah.
Obviously, Love was drafted in, the second round?
It was the end of the first. They traded
first.
up for Love, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, and so late into the first round. Which
everyone was like, what are you doing?
But that's way smarter than how we talked about last week, how the Falcons did it with Michael Penix Jr. after you already guaranteed so much money to Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I've always said you have to have a plan at quarterback beyond just the next year or two.
Yeah.
And I understand that frustrated Aaron Rodgers because he wanted more weapons.
Yeah.
Because the Packers didn't always draft him a lot of, early round receivers by any means or tight ends. I think Mercedes Lewis was like the first round
that he threw a touchdown,
that he threw a touchdown to. Like, that's an insane statistic. But they were still able to get Aaron Rodgers enough help in order for them to constantly be in the mix for the playoffs. And again, that's something in this organization. We talk about 2017, 5-year gap. We talk about 2022, back-to-back winning seasons in 2022 and 2023. But everybody who looked beyond the 9-8 knew that team had a complete meltdown and collapse.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to lend itself towards a really good season this year unless they fixed a lot of things.
Yeah.
We talked about the offensive line so often and about adding a third pass rusher. We were worried about the secondary bringing in free agents.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, we all know how it happened.
Yeah.
4-13, everybody fired. Well, Doug fired and then a delay and then Trent fired. And so, yes, obviously that brings us to this point. And so the in-person interviews begun Wednesday morning. I'm really interested to see when they wrap this up because, oh, by the way, the combine starts on Monday.
Yeah. And
these guys are like, wait, which organization will I be with next week?
Yeah. And I heard JP Shadrick talking to Dempsey and Tony during Jaguars Today, and he mentioned they didn't want to rush this process, which I respect that. And it was one of the things that I said, even when they fired Balky, and it was I said, I don't want this to be a rushed thing now. I do want it to be something that is well thought out. And that was in the head coaching side of it. They obviously already had their mind on Liam Cohen, and that's why things kind of played out the way they did. But then when it comes to the general manager, like you just said, you want this to be a long-term thing. So you don't want to rush just because you do have a deadline, but you have a deadline. So it is a little bit of like, okay, clock is ticking, but make sure that this is a really important choice. This is something that you are now looking at. You've been trying to build this organization to be a steady and consistent winner, and it hasn't ever worked out in your favor. And the right decision here really could make it that.
Yeah, JP also kind of joked, like, I guess they want the GM to talk before the press conference at the combine. And it's like, well, when's that going to be? Saturday? And then turn around and fly up there. But yeah, at the end of the day, I trust that they are being thorough with the process, being diligent with the process, and that they're going to land on someone that they are as excited about as they were to land Liam Cohen. And so, again, that will all take place this week. And eventually this entire searching process that feels like it started so long ago with Black Monday.
And Udinsky will be like, I'm excited.
Yes,
I'm excited.
Udinsky is just as excited as everyone here. All right, Taylor did attend her first college baseball game on Friday at UNF when UNF lost to Notre Dame. I want to get to that. On the other side, and a whole lot more, you are listening to Helmets and Heels on a Big Chief Tire Monday. Remember, you have peace of mind when you get your tires from Big Chief Tire because they repair road hazard damage on eligible tires for free. Find them online at wekeepjacksrolling.com. It's 1010XL, 92.5 FM.
He's 1010XL's best offensive lineman. Whoa! Sorry, 71.
For real?
Leon Searcy.
He's just getting his game back.
Afternoons 2 to 4
Tell me they got that in slow motion.
on 1010XL.
Get a healthy start in 2025. The Florida Department of Health in Duval County is here to encourage you to get healthy and stay healthy this year. They have a dedicated team who are committed to providing quality care. The goal is to protect, promote, and improve the health of you and your family. Visit duval.floridahealth.gov to learn more about their health programs and services. That's duval.floridahealth.gov.
Don't miss the Players' Championship, March 11th through 16th at TPC Sawgrass. This can't-miss event features a variety of activities for every fan to enjoy, from delicious bites to the Sawgrass Splash, there are endless fan enhancements that will make for a memorable experience. Plus, watch the top PGA Tour players, including back-to-back champion Scotty Scheffler, take on the iconic stadium course featuring the famous Island Green. Tickets available at theplayers.com.
Pick it here for Bound 9 Associates, where you'll find Jacksonville's most esteemed eye doctors at each of their locations. After being selected for one of the most competitive ophthalmology fellowships in the world, Dr. Frank Bowden is frequently called upon for his expert opinion. He is currently one of the few cornea and external disease specialists in the area and the founder of Bound 9. Visit Bound 9 Associates today and experience the difference. Bound 9 Associates, keeping the First Coast focused.
Helmets and heels.
It's a Big Chief Tire Monday. The local Jacksonville shop for fair prices and service you can trust.
These days, we do everything from our phones. That's why JEA's app lets you manage your utility services anytime, anywhere. Whether you want to view your account, pay your bill, sign up for programs, or check the outage map, you can do it all right from the app, when and where it's convenient for you. Because we want to make doing business with us as quick and easy as possible. Download the free JEA app from the App Store today. JEA, your community, your utility.
This is Daytona, the awe-inspiring spectacle of Supercross, and the most challenging course to witness the air-catching, adrenaline-pumping, heart-pounding action unlike any other race in Florida. Daytona Supercross. The biggest names battle it out under the lights at the World Center of Racing. Don't miss it. The gate drops Saturday, March 1st. Secure your tickets and trackside access today at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com.
When it rains, it better drain. If storm drains on your commercial property aren't doing their job, this is a major liability that needs to be corrected. Call Duck Duck Rooter to have your storm drains jetted and cleaned with our powerful vac con truck. We'll clear the way for better drainage. Call 904-862-6769. Visit DuckDuckRooter.com. Proud partner of the Jacksonville Jags. Duck Duck Rooter, your fully insured certified plumbing and underground utility contractor.
We're certainly facing interesting economic times. For me, it's comforting to know my money's in good hands with ITP Partners. Jacksonville guys taking care of my Jacksonville money. Experience? Yeah, that's Chris Bryan, Jeff Hartman, Reagan Wright, Dan Abel, Scott Regner, Janice Cobb, and Reed Wingate. They have the expertise and knowledge to take care of your money. For more info, go to itppartners.com. ITP Partners, they're my financial partners for life.
Non-compensated client testimonial may not be representative of all client experiences. No guarantee of future performance or success.
Dr. Kevin Murphy with Southeast Orthopedic Specialist, congratulating our Scholar Athlete of the Week, Henry Cosper, senior basketball player at Wolfson High. Henry is a member of the National Honor Society and the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Congratulations, Henry.
E.T. here. And if you've ever been injured in an accident, you have 14 days to see a doctor and protect your insurance benefits. You have the right to choose your own doctor, too. And I recommend McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation, the auto accident experts.
Brian and Angela Wall here with Window World. By now, everyone has heard about saving money on their energy bills. There are all sorts of things you can do to cut energy costs, but most people don't think about their windows.
But Window World knows that the biggest energy loss in almost every home is the windows. There is more energy loss from old builder-grade windows than just about anything else in your home.
You can upgrade your heating and air, your appliances. That's good too. But before you do all that, upgrade your windows to Window World's energy-efficient windows.
Window World's windows are easy to clean, energy-efficient, and have the best guarantee in the business.
Window World's slogan is simply the best for less, and we mean it. You get great American-made windows, and you get to keep more of your money when you buy from Window World. Need any more reasons to buy your windows from Window World? Call them today and set up your free in-home estimate, or go online to windowworldneflorida.com.
Window World,
simply the best for less. Thank you for your business.
Window World also offers energy-efficient doors.
You survived the cold, and it's time to heat up your spring with a cigar tasting of Perdomo cigars. Join Tobacco Cove Saturday, February 22nd from 1 to 4 p.m. for a tasting extravaganza featuring Perdomo cigars rolled in Nicaragua. Food, drinks, and specials on cigars. This is your chance to experience the quality and value Perdomo offers. Tobacco Cove on Bay Meadows Road. More than a cigar store, it's an experience.
Here's Ben and John Lupo, owners of Beards Diamonds.
It's funny, my dad has sold people engagement rings, and now I'm selling their kids engagement rings and anniversary gifts and birthday gifts.
We're blessed with the relationships we've built over the years.
Check out our full inventory at beardsdiamonds.com.
Beards Diamonds in the St. John's Town Center.
1010XL is presented by Farrah & Farrah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
This is Helmets and Heels.
Kept classy by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
On 1010XL.
Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you. Mia O'Brien on vacation. She'll rejoin us tomorrow. All right, Taylor Dahl, you went to the lovely campus of the University of North Florida on Friday to Harmon Stadium as UNF welcomed Notre Dame in. And because it was your first college baseball game, I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, it was a blast, honestly. And with obviously, when you go to shrimp games, when you go to major league games, there's always kind of the hecklers and the people that are, it's 20 times that at a college baseball game, which was fun. It was fun to experience that. There was a group of girls. Oh, yeah. It was definitely the students to the right of us, and they were going ham on the Notre Dame players. Made me laugh a few times, though. I was like, that was a good one. I might take that with me. But yeah, it was a blast. Notre Dame took 2 of 3. This game was it was actually a really good game. The starting pitcher, Jack Radel for Notre Dame, pitched 4 innings, 1 hit through that. So the beginning felt like it was all Notre Dame. As soon as they put in that reliever, the reliever, I think, allowed like 5 hits pretty soon once he kind of took over. So the game got a little bit closer. It was like, I want to say they scored the 2 runs pretty soon after that he came in. And so anytime like that, obviously you want your team to win, but anytime it's a game where it's a little more on edge and you're like, oh, this is like an actual good game, especially in baseball, it's fun. But
how many Notre Dame fans were there?
There was actually a good amount, and it's funny because it was cold. It actually was pretty cold that night, and so at one point I was in the bathroom and I'm like waiting in line, and there's the moms, like a couple of the players' moms from Notre Dame players' moms in there, and they're like bundled up, and the lady was like, I thought we were coming to Florida. And I was like, you guys have like 20 degrees right now. And she's like, yeah, but it's so cold right now. I was not expecting this. But there was a good amount of Notre Dame fans. And I think in their minds, they were like, oh, we get to come down to like sunny Florida and warm up for a little while. And unfortunately, the weekend did not look like that for them because the rain delay also moved them. So they had to do a doubleheader on Saturday also.
Which I thought was smart. Florida did that. UNF did that. JU ended up canceling 1 game yesterday, but they were able to get 3 in over the weekend as well. FSU was able to get all 3 of theirs, and they didn't move to a doubleheader. But like I said, the other 2 did. I thought that was really smart.
It is, because we've talked the last few years, it feels like Major League Baseball has lost so many games in the beginning, and it gets pushed back to later in the year, or sometimes just not even ever getting to play that other game. And it sucks when that happens, because you feel like this series, whether it's the start of your season, and it kind of feels like it messes everything up at the start. But it was a blast. Everyone was super nice. One of the ladies that sat in front of us works for UNF, and they are diehard baseball fans. So we were all just like going on and on, like in the weeds of like AAA and single A and what players are where and who our favorite players are and where they've gotten drafted. And so it was really fun to just talk baseball with baseball people. But the game was fantastic. Like I said, it was my first time at a college game, but even honestly really seeing that campus or the field or anything, I've been there maybe 3 times, and it's always been for like a chorus concert or something like that, and it's in the building farther up to the front, so I've never really had to like drive back into the area. And I was like, it's a pretty field back there, and it was fun. I definitely will go back. I want to go to JU. Everybody was like, you need to go to see a JU baseball game, so that's probably my next stop.
That's where I'll be tomorrow night.
Oh, yes.
With the Fam Jam, because Florida comes into town. And yeah, JU's John Sessions Stadium is beautiful over there, overlooking the river. It is going to be cold, so I'm already preparing myself to bring a blanket and drink some hot chocolate. But yeah, we have such good local baseball that it's a ton of fun. Like you said, Notre Dame took 2 of 3, but UNF did win the second game of the doubleheader on Saturday. So UNF at least able to get 1 from the Irish. It was 5-3 that Notre Dame won on Friday. The first game of the doubleheader, 19-6 in 7 innings. That was a rough one for UNF. And then UNF ended up turning around and winning 8-1.
Yeah.
So pretty good there. And then they're at FAMU tomorrow, first pitch at 4 o'clock. JU was swept by West Virginia, but like we talked about, West Virginia, top 25 ranked team. And then like I said, the game yesterday was canceled due to weather. So it was supposed to be a 4-game series. It ended up being 3. And then JU,
by the way, JU Athletics has had the toughest start to all of their sports schedules. I'm like, because we were talking about the lacrosse, both lacrosse teams started with ranked opponents. Now their baseball is starting with the ranked opponent. They go all in.
We talked about it this time of year, the northern teams come down. And so certainly for lacrosse, you're expecting some ranked teams. In baseball, you don't usually expect the northern teams to be ranked just because usually it's Southern baseball team. Like if you look at the top 25, it's a ton of SEC teams. But JU, like I said, plays host to Florida tomorrow, first pitch, 6 o'clock. You can still get tickets, or at least you could as of this past weekend. I got my tickets online, so make sure you get your tickets if you want to go to that. All right, so Florida baseball. My goodness. Now, granted, Air Force is not a ranked opponent by any means. I don't think Air Force is that good. But Florida's starting pitching rotation was elite over the weekend. And you also had Brody Donay, 10 at-bats, 3 home runs, 5 hits overall, or 5 ribbies overall, 7 hits. He's batting a 700 average. Now, granted, it's just 3 games. That
helps, though.
But Liam Peterson, ridiculous, 11 strikeouts. Jay Clemente had, I think, 6 strikeouts. And then Pierce Capola second game of the doubleheader on Saturday, will normally be the Sunday starter, had 12 strikeouts. Like, I don't know how teams, and that's why it's going to be so fun to see JU Florida tomorrow night in person. I just don't know how and that'll be a different starter because it's midweek, of course. But I don't know how teams are going to get
score
hits
to
against,
keep up.
And offensively, they're also stacked.
And that's what we were having the conversation about, Jack Caglione, and how much that was going to affect hitting at all. It doesn't seem like right now. It's
Not
really,
yet, and it's early.
And that's what, it is early. But I do feel like we talked earlier that it kind of was disappointing start to the beginning of last year's baseball season. So to see them come out to what it feels like was the end of what we were seeing of Florida baseball towards the end of last season, that's exciting because that team was so much fun to watch towards the end. And so getting that right away out of the gate is, I feel like, what most baseball fans want to see. And I guess unless you're like a Seminoles fan.
Well, if you're a Seminoles fan, everything's good. By the way, last week I gave you rankings for the local teams in Florida, Florida State, and Georgia that are all ranked. I was using D1 baseball. I'm not going to use D1 baseball because I think they've got the rankings wrong. I'm going to use Baseball America because I think theirs are better.
Okay.
So Florida State now ranked 5th. They were 6th. They moved up to 5th. Florida was ranked 7th, now up to 6th. And then Georgia, I don't remember their ranking last week in Baseball America, but now they're 11th. I think they dropped a little bit because Georgia did lose one of the games over the weekend to UNC Wilmington. But going back to Florida State, swept James Madison. And again, I'm going to put James Madison in the same category as Air Force. Not that good, but Florida State won Friday 6-0, Saturday 9-2, and Sunday 10-0 in 8 innings. So they ruled them. Florida State is at USF tomorrow at 5 o'clock. So Florida State, like you said, as far as Florida, the way they ended the season, Florida State had a strong season all year last year and started hot right out of the gate. And then Georgia was against Quinnipiac on Friday, won that game 9-1, Saturday 7-4, and then faced UNC Wilmington, won 7-3 on Saturday, and then yesterday lost 6-2. Georgia is at Kennesaw State tomorrow, 6 p.m. I do feel like we're going to be keeping up with these teams all year long in the top 10.
Oh, definitely. And that's what it's exciting because we've talked, and last year when you're talking about Florida State, obviously the Link Jarrett thing is we talk about coaching here. Coaching is such a big factor because he came in and immediately that team felt like it just had this different energy to it. And that's what Link Jarrett did when he was at Notre Dame. And that's why it sucked. It sucked to see a coach like that leave. But we've talked about a lot here in Jacksonville when it comes to the Jaguars of how important that coaching is. And that's sport wide.
It certainly is. Look, we've got 2 good ones here locally, and Joe Mercadante at UNF and Chris Hayes at JU. Chris has been there obviously a long time.
A while,
Joe's in his second or third year, and it's fun to see these programs. Sometimes it takes a while, right? Like to get your footing, to figure out exactly where you want certain guys to play or pitchers
and
to get
your guys
into
here
it.
too.
Yeah, exactly. And so I love college baseball. Some people listening are probably like, I didn't watch the second of college baseball over the weekend. Well, y'all missed out because it was a lot of fun. All right, I want to go into more of the sports world when we return. You are listening to Helmets and Heels. It's a Big Chief Tire Monday. Find them online at wekeepjacksrolling.com with over 7,600 5-star reviews. You know Big Chief Tire provides quality service for you and your family. It's 1010XL, 92.5 FM.
The radio station made for you.
My turn.
This is 1010XL, Jacksonville Sports Radio.
Ackerman Urology is now servicing the World Golf Village area. If you have elevated PSA, prostate, bladder, or kidney issues, plan to see the experts at Ackerman Urology right away. Their new location off I-95 at International Gulf Parkway.
North Florida is growing with lots of new families joining our community. If you're one of them making the move here, your next move should be a call to American Electrical to create the best home automation system, enhancing your living experience. There are many ways your life can be made easier through smart home technology, voice-activated systems, automated lighting, total house temperature control. With American Electrical, they've got everything you need to automate your home and make it your true oasis. Check out American-Electrical.com. Powered by professionalism and raising the excellence bar.
What could you do with an extra $75,000 right now, or even a couple $100,000? If you own a home, you can get that money in less than a week with Loan Pronto. Hey, Prosser here. Loan Pronto is the leader in quickly converting your home equity into cold hard cash, so you can pay off all your credit cards or start that home remodel. Loan Pronto has several easy options to let you access the cash from your home. There's virtually no paperwork, no cumbersome process, no junk fees, often no appraisals. Listen, the average homeowner now has over $300,000 in equity. That's your money. Use it. One client got $150,000 out and paid off all their credit cards, 2 car loans, and a personal loan, cutting their monthly expenses by $1,500. You can get approved in as little as 1 day, so act now with no hard credit pull up front. LoanPronto.com or 904-999-1508. Get the money you need for anything at 904-999-1508 or just go to LoanPronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Lauren Brooks here. At Hodges Mazda, they are proud of their solid reputation in the Jacksonville community. As your hometown Mazda dealer, their high customer service standards and their huge inventory of new and used cars provide their customers a consistently first-rate car buying experience. Their professional, non-commissioned sales team puts your best interest first without exception. And all new vehicle purchases include the Hodges Mazda Protection Package. Visit them at HodgesMazda.com or stop in the showroom today to learn more and discover the Hodges Mazda difference.
It's a Big Chief Tire Monday on Helmets and Heels.
Home is where your story begins. And at Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, we're here to make it the healthiest, most comfortable place it could be. Whether it's fresh, clean air, dependable plumbing, or reliable power, we take care of it all. From routine maintenance to state-of-the-art solutions, Donovan keeps your home running smoothly. Because at Donovan, we believe your home isn't just where you live, it's where your health meets comfort. Call Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing at 904-270-COOL or visit us online. Let's make your home healthier, safer, and better together.
The Players is proud to support Canine Companions in their mission to provide highly trained service dogs to adult, children, and veterans with disabilities free of charge. 22 days to the Players.
If you're ready to transform your yard with a fence that stands out, elevate your curb appeal with Superior Fence and Rail. Superior takes pride in offering first-class service, friendly installers, and unmatched fence products. Mention this ad and get $250 off your next project. It's time to get off the fence and call today.
When you're on the fence, about the fence, SuperiorFenceandRail.com.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today from GFL, Green for Life.
This Date in Sports History is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On February 17, 1974, at the 16th Daytona 500, auto racer Richard Petty is the first driver to win back-to-back titles at Daytona, his fifth great American race.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville, and Triumph has gone off-road. And Greg, you got something really cool coming up this Saturday.
This Saturday, we're going to be out at North Florida Motocross Track from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with the new Triumph 250 and 450 ready to ride.
Triumph's been on-road forever, but now they're off-road.
They are off-road. It's a championship bike built by Ricky Carmichael, and it is bad to the bone.
I got to love it. Got to see it. Check it out. Triumph Off-Road. All the details are on Cycles of Jacksonville's Facebook page.
AA Automotive
Automotive helps keep your vehicle in dependable and safe condition. Call Sam, Harry, or Joe, and they'll check your brakes, tires, fluids, electric, and motor, so your ride runs smooth on the road. That's AA Automotive on Richard Street.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. Call 904-722-1111.
Instant Keys saves the day if you've lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call Instant Keys, 722-1111.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Helmets and Heels is switched on by
First Coast Lighting and Fans.
Upscale Lighting, Fans, and Home Decor on 1010XL.
Anybody who's grown up idolizing the tournament hosts has seen this putt a million times.
Oh, yes! Ludwig Oberg takes Tigers tournament.
That was just big time. Big time. It really looked like McNeely had this tournament. He didn't do anything to lose it at all. It's just Oberg surged with 4 birdies over the last 6 holes.
So in watching the PGA Tour yesterday, by the way, Jim Nantz obviously on the call for CBS, here's what it felt like to me. Maverick McNeely leading the tournament. He was at 11 under. And there's a certain name that was getting a little closer and a little closer. That would be one Scotty Scheffler. I think that McNeely.
That got in his head.
Was a little bit feeling the pressure of Scheffler playing really well. And I don't think McNeely paid nearly as much attention to Ludwig Oberg. And then you turn around and realize that once McNeely missed a putt, and then obviously to finish the tournament, as you just heard, Oberg made the 6-footer. And then he is winning. He wins the Genesis Invitational with Tiger there. That even though Tiger didn't play in it because he was still grieving the loss of his mother, I still think having Tiger there adds to the feeling. And I also think it's pretty cool that even though they moved the tournament, it still felt like the Genesis Invitational.
Yeah, and I think it reminded me, there were so many moments last year when it was like Scheffler coming after people or
breathing down your neck.
And that affected people in many tournaments last year, but it never felt reversed. When Scheffler had the lead, you always felt like there was nothing, like he was never shaken.
Very Tiger-like.
Yes, and we talked about that. There was those moments of when do you start comparing him to that? When does he start getting that, like, could he be that next Tiger that we're talking about? And so it's interesting to see certain guys like a McNeely, because he bogeyed 14, I think it was. And at that moment, I was like, uh-oh, like he's feeling it. And certain guys, like, not saying that he can't handle the pressure, but it clearly was in his head a little bit, because after that moment, and to your point, I don't even know if he was really looking at Oberg at that point. I remember last year also having to learn that name, and every year at the Players Championship when I'm doing updates, it's been like a name I had never heard of that I would have to learn on the spot, and that was the one last year.
Which that also goes to show you the depth of the tour. That there are guys you've never heard
especially
of.
since Liv.
Right. But even before that, when I was doing it over 10 years ago, there would be names, especially because they're international usually, names that it's like, I've never heard of this guy, but he's doing really well. A guy yesterday that was at the top of the leaderboard that I don't think many people are familiar with, Patrick Rogers.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with, and that's why this is the time of year where I start being like, okay, let me get more. I guess I don't have to do updates this year because I actually have a show.
Yes, but that means you have to know even more because we're 5 days a week at the Players Championship.
I'll just ask you all how to say everything. But yeah, I feel like, and the golf is so interesting, and it's not obviously my favorite sport, but my grandpa loves golf. He's one of those people when you walk into the house and once golf season is full on, you don't walk in the house. It's on at every point of the day. My grandma also loves golf. So there are two people that will have it on no matter what the tournament is, no matter who's in the lead. There are certain people and certain golfers, obviously, they cheer for, but they just enjoy the sport so much, and that is part of why. And I think because we talk about like the parity in the NFL and, or maybe sometimes lack of it, and golf I feel like you see all these new up and coming names, and it's exciting because then it's not the same thing all the time. And I guess when it was Tiger, it was Tiger. But since then, I do feel like we've had just such this. It was like a John Rahm, and he had his stretch, and then it was Scheffler last year, and where there was moments where it was Victor Hovland at the top all the time, and obviously a Rory McIlroy who. He was laughing at himself. I was like, poor guy. He could not make a putt to save his life. And I was like, he starts giggling, and I'm like, oh, he's not about this right now.
It's funny how he just won recently, so he can be relaxed, which I do think that certainly helps you in golf. Some other guys that were towards the top of the leaderboard that I know people are not in love with, I shouldn't say it like that, but they're some of their favorite golfers, a Tony Finau, a Tommy Fleetwood, a Justin Thomas. Like, all those guys were in the mix yesterday, guys that people love to follow here at the Players. And so it's a PGA Tour that I honestly used to be so upset about LIV, and now I feel like I'm much more relaxed about it because I don't have to even worry about it taking away from the tour. Like, I don't think we've seen anyone of note recently leave or deflect from the PGA Tour to LIV. And Tiger did talk about it yesterday. He was interviewed by Jim Nance and Trevor Immelman, and he said, the goal is for the best golfers to all play together. My question is, are the guys on LIV still some of the best golfers? I think there's a couple names, certainly like a Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, that you would say still are elite golfers. But for the most part, I don't think the PGA Tour misses them in the least. But at the end of the day, obviously, they want what's best for the sport of golf, and I understand.
And some of those names are involved in that. And I think the person who's done it best is DeChambeau, because he was one of the guys who was not very well liked when he was on the tour and was talked about as kind of this guy that a lot of people, whether it was how long it took him to when he was trying to figure out a shot, how long that took. And then when he goes to LIV, he was the one that approached it the best, because when it came to YouTube and all of the things he started doing and kind of got
stayed relevant.
He stayed relevant, and a lot of guys haven't. And so I honestly don't even really think about LIV anymore. And granted, I'm sure there's JJ loves LIV golf, and he talks about it all the time. He makes that comment that he's like, it's just so fun, and there's some of those names on there you still want in the golf world, so you're going to follow.
Yeah, Cam Smith is another example.
And that one, like, there's certain guys like that it kind of sucked because you were fans of them and they were fun to watch. And obviously, you're at the Players Championship when you're watching certain guys win and then they leave and they go to LIV. It's unfortunate, but I do think at the same time, to your point, I don't really think about it that much anymore the way I did when everybody was at first announcing they were leaving.
Absolutely. And we have the Players Championship coming up and now less than a month away. Yeah. And last year we had unbelievable weather. So I know everyone at the PGA Tour is knocking on wood that they get a repeat of that weather. To me, it's one of the best weeks of the year. I say it all the time. The Players Championship is one of the best weeks of the year. Even if you're not the biggest golf fan, you can go for lots of different things, whether it's food or drinks or the social aspect of it and what to wear. And then obviously, if you're a golf fan, you get to be up close and personal on one of the best golf courses. Even if you don't want to be in the crowds at 17, you can find so many different places, especially on the front nine, to watch golf. And like I said, see these guys from 6 feet away. How often do you get to see, a guy like Justin Thomas and his driver tee off, right? And I saw a clip of Rory being asked about his favorite golf club ever, and it took him a while to answer. And then he eventually said a driver. I think he said the M2 driver. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, it has to be the most empowering feeling as a golfer. Like, putting is great. Yeah. Your short game being good is great. But hitting a ball over 300 yards off a tee, like,
a little bit different feeling.
Yeah, and especially if you're playing with someone who isn't as long as you, like, to be that has to just be such a cool feeling.
Which, speaking of, we do have this week. We'll start with all of the Players Championship giveaways. So tune in all week because we'll be giving away, and like you said, it's a month away now, which is less than a month away, and so it's that time where you can start winning tickets on all of the shows, which is exciting.
Yeah, we will be giving away 2 tickets to a practice round on Tuesday tomorrow. And the reason that that's significant is because the Military Appreciation Concert is that Tuesday, and Jordan Davis will be playing, and all the military pageantry is wonderful. All right, I want to get to this Four Nations hockey, Taylor. Yeah. You're one of the biggest hockey fans here at 1010XL. And here's my confusion. I don't know that you'll necessarily be able to clear it up, but the United States has a game tonight, even though they're already in the championship game.
Yeah.
Why do they have to play a game when they're already? I know it's a round robin and all those things, but I feel like that game should be dismissed and they should just move right into
the championship on
game.
Thursday. Yeah,
right.
I guess it's just more hockey, and
right now the United States, obviously, and Canada's game drew 4.4 million viewers.
Yeah, it was so much fun, and if you're a hockey fan, it's fun. This is something that you want to see anyways. But the amount of people that I saw tweeting about this, watching this game that usually aren't in that world of hockey. They did it so well, and it's going on at the same time as the NBA All-Star Game. And I do want to talk to RJ about this and get his thoughts, because I want to know how the NBA All-Star Game fixes things, because you saw this. There's 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of this USA-Canada game, and that's exactly what hockey fans want to see in general. And the people that aren't hockey fans, that's what they love about hockey, so they're like, heck yeah, fight. But the storylines, obviously, the Smash Brothers, the Kachuk brothers are insane anyways. They're just kind of psychopaths, but it's really fun.
Following
their dad was
footsteps.
too, yeah. And it was funny because it was like their dad started this big brawl against Canada, and it was like the first 20 seconds, and then these two started in the first 9 seconds. So there's all these storylines too of familiar names that people know, and they love these like enforcer type players anyways, and that's 2 of the guys that obviously started all of this. And just seeing them chirping, they're both like rating each other's fights also. Once they got put in the penalty box, they're like, oh, like yours is a 7, mine was a 10, like going back and forth. And I'm like, this is fantastic. But RJ, and we were talking a little bit off air about this, but is there a way that the NBA All-Star Game can get people to care again?
That's up to the players. That's up to the players. I don't even know how to go any further with that.
Do you like the way it's set up? Do you think if the players cared more, this current setup, like the current format, would work?
If you heard them yesterday, they didn't like it. Okay. With the 4 teams early on in the season, when it was announced that it was going to be this type of a format, go back to East-West, just make it 2 teams. This is insane. But at the same time, the NBA is grasping at straws here. Just the NBA guys, I think they really view this as a break now. They do not view this as a celebration of the NBA as it was so lovingly called years and years ago. So until the players decide that they want to figure out amongst themselves how they want to go about playing in this game, because look, I think NBA players know well enough now how to play in an exhibition game and not intentionally hurt each other. If that is your fear, or if you think there needs to be any sort of extra compensation, but I'm sure in your contracts, and I'm sure that the NBA for being an all-star gives you an extra little bit of cash on top of the winnings that you could potentially get should your team win the all-star game. At the end of the day, this is all up to the players. I mean, yesterday was an absolute dud. The weekend was an absolute dud once again.
The dunk contest, I feel like, was the only thing that got people talking.
Was a dud, as I said.
That's why I was like, I feel like even at that point, it's like you feel like you've seen almost every dunk, so you're like, okay, that's cool. But
it's not even the fact that you've seen every dunk. I just think, again, the NBA is just grasping at straws at this point. I think you're grasping at the straw of, well, who can we call? I understand. I understand that G League players are NBA players. They just play in the developmental system. But I mean, for a guy that you have basically on a dunk contest residency, as I would like to call it, in Mac McClung, that's the guy that has to save your dunk contest, and he dunks so well in the dunk contest. That's what makes a guy like John Morant say, maybe I want to get the dunk contest. Now, that shouldn't be the thing. I think a lot of these guys are worried about their brand, for better or for worse. They don't want to get embarrassed. They don't want to look bad, or if they don't win, that's going to turn out to be something. I do think these guys should just want to put on a show. This used to be the collection of the best basketball players in the world showing what they can do, and no longer has it been that.
LeBron said no thank you.
Listen, LeBron said essentially, I mean, if you translate what LeBron said last night, essentially it's, listen, I would much rather just kind of save myself to play with Luka Doncic next week. That's how much I do not believe in this new format. But LeBron James, along with Steph Curry or along with Kevin Durant, those are guys who played with Kobe in an all-star game. Those are guys who played with Dirk and Tim Duncan in all-star games. And listen, the first half used to be, listen, we're going to throw up lobs and we're going to run and we're going to jump and we're going to dunk. But then once halftime got around, it's, all right, we gave the fans what they wanted. Now let's play some basketball. And I don't know where this started in terms of let's not take it serious. No one has really given me a reason, even with Draymond Green saying that he hates this format. Well, the question I would have asked if I were standing there on the panel is, okay, so where did everything go wrong? How can this be fixed? Because no one's really answered that question yet. So,
but I don't think they care. Like, to your point, why would they care if the prize winnings are insignificant to what they make on a yearly basis? And that's where I think if you date or go back and go through football players too, when the contracts got to be so extravagant, they at no point then is it worth risking injury.
Yeah.
And so, to me, I think most sports fans would have rather tuned into something that had meaning. And why do the hockey players not care about getting injured? And every other
they're
sport
just fist fighting, and they're like, let's go. Because it's for their country. Like, I honestly think that is an added
so
element.
maybe we have the Europeans versus
That's
the
what
Americans.
I was like, maybe if you make it about your country, people maybe care a little bit more. I know hockey, that's such a big thing, and this format that they changed it to this way is the best we've seen in a long time. And so we'll see if that continues. We'll see if because it was new this year and whatever, if that changed it. But it is, to your point, RJ, that was a really good way of saying it when it said, because we say all-star break, to them it's a break. It's the all-star game doesn't even matter. It's a break for them.
Right. And obviously with football, they put the Pro Bowl games after the end of the season.
I know. Imagine if in October they had to play like a meaningless game in the middle just to like get a couple extra dollars. They wouldn't want to play that.
No, certainly. And flag football, we did see that at the Pro Bowl games. But again, they don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't know how you figure out whether it's the NFL or whether it's the NBA. I don't know how you figure out to make someone who makes $50 million a year care about something that's not winning a championship.
Yeah.
And just because hockey players are crazy does not mean that that's going to translate to other sports. Like they are unicorns.
They are, yes.
And so I don't know that you can say, well, we did it like this and for this sport and then have it translate.
Because even baseball, the game, I feel like people don't care about as much, and I don't think the players do. The home run derby is the thing. Like the home run derby is what I think
used to care about the All-Star game.
It used to because that's what I was about to say. Because you also had some a higher significance when it came to once you got into the postseason, or the World Series, and so I do think maybe something like that factors in, but I just don't know how the NBA ends up doing it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. We've got more to do on the other side. We talked about Travis Hunter performing as a DB at the Combine. Albert Breer had some insight into that. We'll get to that on the other side and a whole lot more. You're listening to Helmets and Heels on a Big Chief Tire Monday on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Find Florida Gators basketball on 1010XL.
Florida aims to overwhelm Oklahoma on their trip to the top. Gators Sooners, tomorrow night at 7 on 1010 a.m.
Now you can watch 1010XL shows all day on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Brought to you by MyBookie. Experience Vegas from the comfort of your phone anytime, anywhere. Sign up today. Use promo code 1010XL.
Lauren Brooks here for Terminix. When pests invade your home or business, you don't just need them out. You need them out fast. And you need to keep them out. At Terminix, they'll show up for you and eliminate pests quicker, just like they did at my house, because they care about what matters most to you. When pests show up, so does Terminix. Don't live with a pest problem, Terminix it. Visit Terminix.com today to schedule a free inspection online. That's TERMINIX.com.
Looking for comfort with who you work with? Remember, Florida Home AC only hires the best. Background checks and drug screenings for all their technicians, so you can be confident when you choose Florida Home AC. Exceptional service is their guarantee at Florida Home AC.
This is Daytona, the awe-inspiring spectacle of Supercross, and the most challenging course to witness the air-catching, adrenaline-pumping, heart-pounding action unlike any other race in Florida. Daytona Supercross. The biggest names battle it out under the lights at the World Center of Racing. Don't miss it. The gate drops Saturday, March 1st. Secure your tickets and trackside access today at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com.
Your new roof from Universal Roof and Contracting can help save a life. Percentage of every new roof this month will go to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. St. Jude's is leading the way. The world understands, treats, and defeats childhood cancer and other life-threatening diseases. Call 855-ROOF-HELP or visit universalroof.com to schedule your free roof inspection. This promotion ends February 28th. Universal Roof and Contracting, protecting your home, building your trust. License number CCC 057165, CBC 1258484.
It's a Big Chief Tire Monday. The local Jacksonville shop for fair prices and service you can trust.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, your favorite drafts are poured at a frosty 29 degrees, and rare barrel-aged whiskeys are served just the way you want them. It's bigger game days and bolder fight nights. I mean, where else can you find a scratch kitchen that always comes in clutch every day from lunch to late night? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Twin Peaks Scratch Kitchen scores every time. Dig into hand-smashed burgers, chef-inspired flatbreads, and more at your local lodge.
Did you know your pup could take 30,000 to 60,000 steps a day at Dogtopia of Jacksonville Beach Boulevard? That's a whole lot of tail wagging fun with their best furry friends. At Dogtopia, they turn playtime into exercise, learning, and socialization in their off-leash, open play environment. Dogs build confidence, reduce anxiety, and stay happy and healthy, all while having the time of their lives. Visit Dogtopia of Jacksonville Beach Boulevard today.
Yo, E.T. here, and beat the winter blues with fun activities in Clay County. Some of my personal favorites are a hands-on aquaponics class at Reparation Earth, or diving into the action at Nakima Anime Bar, where you can join weekly gaming and cosplay tournaments. Clay County always has something going on. Plan your next date at exploreclay.com and share the fun at #ExploreClay.
The flagship station of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Mia here. Since 1982, Closets by Design has specialized in creating dream spaces for every budget. My designer, Frances, made the process so easy. She came to my house and designed a beautiful walk-in closet that's already so incredibly functional for me and old Beau Valentine. Call today to schedule your free in-home consultation at 1-800-293-3744 or visit closetsbydesign.com. And take advantage of extended savings this month. Get 40% off and another 15% off with 18-month special financing.
Prosser here. No matter what you do, man, you love consistency. And when it comes to selling your home for Chad and Sandy, good times are bad. They're there to help you, and you're going to get the most that you can. The economy actually showing positive signs. Now may be the time to sell your home at the price you want, and it's easy to find out. Get friendly expert help from the Jacksonville agents who are there for you. My agents, Chad and Sandy Newman. Maybe you need more space with a growing family or working from home. Whatever your reasons, Chad and Sandy come through for you as the local real estate experts I trust and recommend. Chad and Sandy, in fact, will guarantee you this. Your home sold at an agreed-upon price and deadline, or they will buy it. John and Ursula in Green Meadows said, I was not in great health, so we decided to downsize to an easier place to manage. First, we needed to sell our Green Meadows home fast. Unfortunately, after 185 days, our home failed to sell. With another realtor, we made the switch, though, to Chad and Sandy. Sold it in 12 days. You can, too. Go to chadandsandy.com or call 414-6200.
Denny Thompson here. You got to check out Tyson's Showroom Home Theater with surround sound and comfy theater chairs. You can transform your living room into a cinematic experience. I can stay there to watch all my games. It's that comfortable. Call Tyson today and bring the theater experience home. Tyson Sound and Security, your security, home theater, and home automation experts. New showroom at 3555 U.S. Highway 17 in Fleming, Iowa.
Transform your bathroom with stunning shower glass from Sky Glass Solutions in Jacksonville Beach. For a free quote, call 904-608-5151 or visit skyglasssolutions.com.
Here's your 1010XL local sports update, sponsored by YMCA of Florida's First Coast. Number 3 ranked Florida Gator men's basketball team achieved a decisive victory over South Carolina at home on Saturday. Head coach Todd Golden focused on regrouping for the second half.
I thought the second half we played a little harder. I thought our energy and our effort was a little better.
The Florida High School Athletic Association will continue the 2024-25 boys basketball regional playoffs with the second round today for Jacksonville and Northeast Florida. Notable matchups include Mariana at Jackson and Bishop Kenny at Ribault, with start time scheduled for 7 p.m. Some of college baseball's premier teams, including Alabama and Ohio State, will be competing at the Jacks College Baseball Classic, held on February 21st through the 22nd at 1-to-1 Financial Ballpark. That's your 1010XL local sports update. I'm Sam Nelson.
Right now, 55 degrees at 12:57. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Light up your lunch with Helmets and Heels.
Presented by First Coast Lighting and Fans.
On 1010XL.
Aberdeen. Hand locked it. Big man moves. Off the glass and a chance for three. Listen to this place.
Such a great moment from over the weekend. Micah Hanlogton and his return for the University of Florida men's basketball team. Florida destroyed South Carolina on Saturday night, which was fun to see, but mainly so good to see Micah Hanlogton after the gruesome injury he suffered in the loss to Auburn last year in the SEC men's tournament, the SEC men's basketball tournament. And it was awesome to see, too. His mom tweeted about it and how wonderful it was to hear how loud the crowd was in complete opposition to when he went down. She's like, I don't even remember much of that day. But look, it was a great victory for Florida. South Carolina's not very good, even though Florida almost lost to South Carolina earlier this season. But now Florida is amongst the four. The NCAA had their early bracket reveal amongst the four top seeds, so a number one seed. So that's also great to see it. And Todd Golden's group is just absolutely showing us their mettle and their resolve at every turn. Yeah. Just because guys go out, or Hanlogton, who hasn't played basketball in forever, now, almost a year or a little over a year, he played 20 minutes. Yeah. Like he kept, though, I don't know if you were watching, Taylor, he kept putting his hands on his hips after he'd sprint down
conditioning
court,
not quite
court.
there.
And I was like, oh, poor guy. They're asking a lot out of him. I know a lot of people predicted that he wouldn't get that much playing time. And then, to play pretty much 1/3 of the basketball game is a lot. But it was awesome to see him on the bench as well. He was still just the same happy-go-lucky guy.
And one of the things we've talked about a lot, and you brought it up when it comes to the runs, and that's the difference of a Todd Golden and a Mike White. Another 12-1 run after half. And things like that is just what makes so many people have the confidence they do in Florida, I think. And we also, when we're talking about guys in Aberdeen and a Hauk, which we were just discussing how to say his name on the thing. But when you're talking about a Thomas Hauk and a Aberdeen, those are two names that I wouldn't have. And I was doing updates constantly. I was doing the Gator reports last year. And when you have new names like this, that when big players come down, or when you do have a Hanlogton who's coming back and may not be conditioned to 100%, you have guys like this both put up 20+ points, and that is what's so fun about
highs for both of them.
Like you're having different players each game. I feel like have these career type games, and that's what makes this team so fun to watch right now.
Yeah, a lot of people would say Denzel Aberdeen would start on a lot of other basketball teams, but he wasn't a starter for Florida because they already had Elijah Martin. They had Will Richard and, of course, Walter Clayton Jr. And then Thomas Hauk, the same thing. You've got Ruben Chinyelu, you've got Alex Condon when he's healthy, obviously. And so Hauk was coming off the bench. But both of those guys have been asked to start, and they've both played so well that you wonder, should they have been starting earlier this season? So I mentioned Florida's number one seed along with Auburn, Alabama, and then Duke. Auburn and Alabama squared off on Saturday. Auburn won at Alabama. And I heard someone say, one of the basketball analysts say, like, Auburn now has the best win of the year. And it's like, wait a minute. Auburn, yes, ranked number one, won at number 2 Alabama. Florida
beat them
was
by
like 5 or 6 when Florida won at number 1 Auburn. So either way, there's still a few games left, like 7 games, I want to say, in the rest of the season to go before we get to the SEC tournament. And Florida has a much easier schedule the next 3, and then it gets difficult again. But it's been just so much fun to see this team have each other's back. I think that's the biggest thing. I mentioned Travis Hunter at the Combine. Albert Breer tweeted this out, or put this out in his Monday Morning Quarterback, and I thought this was interesting, Taylor, because we talked so much about why is Hunter going to be a DB, not a wide receiver? And he said that in talking with the NFL people that they wanted him to be able to go through workouts and assessments Monday through Wednesday with the DBs and work out Thursday with the defensive backs. That allows him Friday, if he so chooses, to work out with the wide receivers. Nice. Now, he may elect to not do any of the workouts, but at least that gave him the option to be able to do both. And for those people like us who are going to watch every second of the Combine, I can't wait. If he decides to work out, I can't wait to see what he looks like amongst the DBs and then amongst the receivers.
Yeah, and we were talking about it last week of a lot of guys want to, if you were to choose the wide receiver contract over the DB contract, but a lot of people were making good points on the text line too last week about how it's by the draft pick when you first go, so it like position doesn't really matter. But once you get into your career, obviously what whatever this team is viewing you as, that does kind of dictate where your career would go. Not saying that they won't. We've heard a lot of people say mix in some packages where he can be in some wide receiver packages, but make him a defensive back. But then he'll be getting paid defensive back money and still having to do some wide receiver things. But if somebody loves him as a wide receiver and they see him more in that role and they draft him and say, hey, we want you to truly be both of these players, how much can you do of both? And then have the career dictate which one he transfers best over. I think we've talked a lot about the weight he's going to have to put some weight on no matter what side of the ball he's playing. But it will, something like this, that's interesting because we were wondering why the DB was the choice of how he was listed. So it'll be fascinating to follow along. He's one of the more fascinating stories to follow along as his career starts, to see how much we are seeing him on each side of the ball.
For sure, and he's a guy that I think Jags fans right now would pretty much argue a couple different guys, and that's about it at that if the Jags stay picking at 5. It seems like it's Mason Graham who's surged in people's minds, and then Travis Hunter. And Graham is going to fulfill that defensive tackle role, and he's going to, from everything he's projected to be, to fill that role really well. Like super, super talented player, wrestling background, so that helps with his leverage. And then Travis Hunter, a guy that could literally fill both needs at corner and receiver if he is asked to do both of those things. So a lot of versatility. It feels like there's going to be almost like that split fan base between now and April. And again, especially if these guys perform well at the Combine, even though those Combine measurables and the different exercises that they have, the drills, like that shouldn't factor that much. It shouldn't be like, okay,
we all saw these guys play.
Right. Your tape is 80%, Combine's 20%. It should not be like that. But doesn't it feel like after the Combine, there are certainly guys that rise a ton?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I do think, too, I'm interested to see the fan base, because I do think there's going to be full-on team Travis Hunter and Mason Graham. But I don't know if you land one of those two guys. I think the majority of the fan base would understand, because there's just two such dire needs. We talk about that opposite corner across from Tyson Campbell and how much of a need that is. But the middle of the field in general was bad, really bad last year. So being able to add pass rush in the middle, being able to stop the run, being at those third down that were just terrible in a lot of areas. I feel like it did get a little bit better towards the end of the year once Eric Armstead was back, when they were putting him in the middle a little bit more, and we were seeing Mason Smith out there a little bit more. I feel like the run game got a little bit better, but somebody like that alters everything you can do, and it honestly even helps out the secondary, and we've talked about that a ton too. So I wonder if this might be one of the few years where if you land one of those two guys, the majority is happy.
For sure. The Jaguars landed a fantastic receiver who I've seen redrafts. People would say Brian Thomas Jr. should have been drafted as the top receiver. It's only 1 year, but certainly he has, as I read, intoxicating traits. I loved that phraseology, because that's absolutely true. And so Trevor Lawrence was on the Up and Adams podcast today, and he was asked about that number one receiver for the Jags, Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, I've had a couple different moments. So our first practice together in OTAs, he made some crazy plays. I threw a fade, and he just snagged it with one hand, just casual. Like, ball skills were ridiculous. I could see all that right away, and he's so fast, and but it doesn't look like he's running hard. He's one of the smoothest guys I've seen, definitely played with. And then, so that as OTAs, and it seemed like the beginning of training camp, we got off to kind of a slow start. It was just, for whatever reason, it seemed like the ball kind of just kept going everywhere else, and we're kind of struggling to get him involved. And then when we did joint practices with Tampa here in camp, I mean, he just blew everybody away. I mean, he was running down the field. We were throwing him bombs, like post, these divide routes, everything over the top. He's just running past everybody. And I think that's when you saw a lot of his competitiveness pop and come out. And then obviously when we played the Chiefs in the preseason, he made a huge play on the sideline on a go around. We were all standing there. A lot of the guys had come out of the game, but he was getting a few more reps, and we were all standing there and watched him make this crazy catch on the sideline, and he was getting hype. And to see his competitiveness, because he's a more quiet guy, but to see him come alive and see that fire, I think was really cool to see.
Yeah, I don't think any of us will forget that preseason catch and how crazy the sideline went. But I also loved when Trevor mentioned the joint practices with the Bucs. Liam Cohen in his introductory press conference was asked about, you know, what did you learn about the Jags while you were here for those 2 days of practices? And he's like, well, I didn't get to watch Brian Thomas Jr. because I was with our
I was hearing
offense,
the oohing and I.
but all I heard were those Jags fans and the different roars that they had, because I think that was when they finally unlocked BTJ as far as practice is concerned. And then, he's a guy that he may not say the most words, but the moment he makes a really good catch, you see his personality come alive.
Yeah, and I was thinking back when I was doing a lot of my podcasts, getting to know some of the possible draft prospects this last year, and I did one of the episodes on Brian Thomas Jr. Well, I did on all of the receivers, but Brian Thomas Jr. being talked about that, and I wish I could remember the exact quote, but it made me just think of that as Trevor said. Sometimes it doesn't look like he has the speed that he actually does. And I do remember the person that I talked to who covered him at LSU mentioned something similar. And he was like, he's not that guy that you're watching and you're like, holy crap, he's so fast. But then all of a sudden, and I think he used the word quick over speed. And that's what he's like. He's so quick. And it's like he's tiptoeing while he's doing it. And that's why it's so hard to cover him, because he's one of those guys where he's right there beside you, and the next thing you know, he's 10 yards, 15 yards up the field. And not every receiver has that maybe it's not that first 1-2 step, but once he gets going, he can beat anybody.
That reminds me of the song, Let Me See Your 1-2 Step. All right, one more from Trevor Lawrence. He was asked by Kay Adams about the Steelers trade inquiry rumors that went around last week.
And it's funny, though, when he sent it to me, I was like, I wouldn't say your heart drops, but you're kind of like, what? Like you think, and then I'm like, well, I can't even I have a no trade clause in my contract, so I would know about it if I was getting traded, or if that was something that was going to happen. I'd have to be on board with it. So, which I'm not. I'm happy here in Jacksonville. I plan on, we want to win a Super Bowl here, and I think we can do that. And I don't want to leave Jacksonville, so I'm happy here. Obviously, not going to Pittsburgh.
I wonder how many times football players see reports on themselves and they're like, hold on, what?
Well, it's wild because sometimes the report ends up being accurate.
Yes,
and
they find out they get traded by a Twitter post.
Right, and then obviously in Trevor's case, he has the no trade clause, which I would imagine most quarterbacks with their second contract have something like that, or at least, they get to decide if they're going to be traded, where they get to go. But yeah, Trevor and his wife are building a house here.
Yeah.
They have long said they wanted to put roots down in Jacksonville. And it's not just because I think it's a great place to live, a great city to live in. It's also, look at what Shad Khan has invested in Trevor. I think Trevor has now a voice over what's going on. Not every quarterback in the NFL is going to be able to talk directly with the owner about different front office changes or coaching changes that need to happen, or more control over certain things, whether it comes to the playbook or weapons to be added. Like, I guarantee Trevor Lawrence has been able to have a conversation with someone in the building, whether it's Tony Baselli, Tony Khan, Shad Khan, about wanting T. Higgins, if that becomes an option. That's a guy who he played with at Clemson for a couple of years. I think Trevor's gotten to that point where he has a much bigger voice at the table. And oh, yeah, by the way, there's this $250 million contract extension as well.
Yeah, and that's something that I think also Liam Cohen will take take notes on, because we've heard that relationship with him and Baker was like that. A lot of conversation of what plays do you like, what plays don't you like, that type of thing. And that's exactly the relationship you want to have between your quarterback, your coach, and the owner, because that shows trust. And when you trust the person that is your franchise quarterback, that adds a whole other level of something. And what you, like to your point, you see other teams around the league that they don't trust the guy that is under center, and they don't, because there's a lot of things being done that aren't specifically for that guy. And it's not, we say it all the time, why aren't you building around this quarterback, or why aren't you building around this quarterback? And sometimes, you can even honestly go to Atlanta and what they did with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix, and why people had such a weird feeling about that, because who are you building around then? Who is your trust going to? Is it Kirk Cousins or is it Michael Penix? And I do feel like moving forward, it's going to be Michael Penix. But when you draft somebody that high, you're expecting to already kind of have a voice, and there was this weird split, and it doesn't feel like that's like that here at all. It does feel like Trevor Lawrence is one of the bigger voices in the room.
And that's how it needs to be, because he's the one who has been through a lot now in the NFL, and he knows what hasn't worked, certainly, and he knows other times where he probably wasn't as comfortable. And so he deserves that. And I think this team, as we all know, this team will go as Trevor does. But this team also will get better if he's able to take a larger leadership role. I think he's always been a guy who his teammates will listen to. They know how tough he is. They know how smart he is. But the more experience he has under his belt, he also can guide them as to exactly where he wants his receivers to be. Or, the running backs, like catching the ball out of the backfield, not fumbling. You can walk through some of that stuff once you have pretty much helped design the offense, which that's what I think will happen now that Liam Cohen is here, and certainly young Grant Udinski as well. I'll give you our Terminix Pest of the Day on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on a Big Chief Tire Monday. You can find them around town with 5 locations or online. WeKeepJacksRollin.com. It's 10 to XL 92.5 FM.
Our reward is that justice has been done.
Wherever there is injustice, you will find us. Wherever liberty is threatened, you will find
1010XL. Jacksonville Sports Radio.
It's New Year's resolution time, so why not skip the guilt and do something you'll actually stick to? Mia here for my friends at Duck Duck Rooter. How about fixing that leaky faucet, unclogging that drain, or getting that AC ready for the summer? Duck Duck Rooter is here to help you keep this resolution. Call 904-862-6769 or visit duckduckrooter.com. Invest in your home and start the year off right. Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Don't miss the Players' Championship, March 11th through 16th at TPC Sawgrass. This can't-miss event features a variety of activities for every fan to enjoy, from delicious bites to the Sawgrass Splash. There are endless fan enhancements that will make for a memorable experience. Plus, watch the top PGA Tour players, including back-to-back champion Scottie Scheffler, take on the iconic stadium course featuring the famous Island Green. Tickets available at theplayers.com.
This is Hayes Carlion for Physician Guided Weight Loss. I'm down 20 pounds already thanks to Physician Guided Weight Loss. I feel great, and it's all thanks to them. Their amazing technology, fast setup, friendly staff, and proven results have sold me. They can help you too, and it's affordable with firm pricing. No rising costs as you go. If you're like me and looking to kick off the new year with a leaner body, call my friends at Physician Guided Weight Loss at 257-4344. That's 257-4344.
I'm Rick Julius, a partner at Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is more than just a legal process. It's a life-changing event that can impact your future, finances, and your relationship with your children. You've worked hard to build a life that you're proud of, and you deserve a legal partner who will work just as hard to protect it.
Offices in Jacksonville. Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's attorneys. Lisa Cargis, Florida resident partner. Rick Julius, licensed in Pennsylvania only. Online at CordellCordell.com.
Big Chief Tire Monday on Helmets and Heels.
Don't miss the biggest basketball rivalry in the city as your UNF Ospreys welcome the JU Dolphins in the River City Rumble. Thursday, February 20th at UNF Arena. North Florida continues ASUN Conference play at home with JU Thursday, February 20th at UNF Arena, tipping off at 8. Visit UNFOspreys.com/buy tickets now to secure your seats. UNFOspreys.com/buy tickets now.
Swoop! If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Homeowners, listen up. It's time to start fresh in 2025. Prosser here, and Loan Pronto is here to help take control of your finances in 2025 by lowering your house payments and consolidating that nagging debt. Did you know that 9 out of 10 borrowers get a better deal by calling Loan Pronto? Right now, Loan Pronto has some of the most competitive offers for refis, debt consolidation, and purchase loans, starting in the low 5s APR. If your current rate is over 6%, don't settle for paying too much. Even if you're in process with another lender, call Loan Pronto now. Lock in at a lower rate today and close in as little as 2 weeks, often with no appraisal. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. It's fast, easy, and hassle-free. Get your personalized Loan Pronto rate quote instantly with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees. Call now, 904-999-1508, or go to loanpronto.com. That's 904-999-1508. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval, NMLS consumeraccess.org.
If you're 55 and up, T-Mobile has plans built just for you. 2 lines of unlimited for just $30 a line. That's a 45% savings compared to Verizon and AT&T. But don't just take our word for it.
It's not just the savings that are great with our T-Mobile plan. There's all this value from all these other things that T-Mobile offers.
T-Mobile has been such a savings for us.
We love it.
Switch today and get 2 free 5G phones like the Motorola Edge with Turbo Power charging that gives you power for the day in just 15 minutes. And customers 55 and up can get 2 lines of talk, text, and data for only $30 a line. Go to T-Mobile.com/choice55 to learn more. With AutoPay plus taxes and fees, plus $5 per line without AutoPay. Debit or bank account required. 45% off 2 lines versus AT&T Starter and Verizon Welcome. Plan benefits vary. Motorola Edge on us with 24 monthly bill credits and new line for well-qualified customers, plus tax and $35 per line connection charge. See details at T-Mobile.com. Motorola Edge requires 68-watt charger. Charger sold separately. Actual performance will vary based on usage and configuration.
The rumors and trades.
That is the game within the game.
The decisions and deadlines.
Our work is not done now.
The off-season overflows with surprising storylines.
I'm all ears.
Let AA Automotive and 1010XL guide you through the off-season.
You've got a lot on your plate. The last thing you need is car trouble. At Maxie's Mechanics, we help you keep your cars, trucks, and SUVs running safely. Visit MaxieAutoRepair.com today for honest service, reliable repairs, and peace of mind for you and your family.
Need cash? Beaches Jewelry and Pawn has cash, and they're ready to buy guitars, surfboards, jewelry, firearms, tools, and especially gold. And gold market prices are at a record high. Get cash on the spot at Beaches Jewelry and Pawn in Jacks Beach.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
This is Helmets and Heels.
Kept classy by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
On 1010XL.
Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you on this President's Day. Mia O'Brien will rejoin us tomorrow. Lots of people take vacations this time of year because they do have, a lot of people have President's Day off. So they'll make it either a 3 or a 4-day weekend. But of course, we are here hanging out with you on this Monday. We didn't take President's Day off because we have so much to discuss. My sports week, Taylor, at JU tomorrow night as JU plays host to Florida in baseball. And then also, obviously, be paying attention to Florida basketball as well, taking on Oklahoma. And then on Thursday night, JU is at UNF. UNF plays host to JU in the River City Rumble Part 2.
Yes.
UNF took the first Rumble at JU, so we'll see if JU can exact revenge on UNF on Thursday. And then Friday night, I've got gymnastics again. And then Saturday, more basketball.
Busy week for you.
And also on Thursday at 3 o'clock, 3:05, is first pitch between the Dodgers and the Cubs.
Yeah. There's this is definitely.
I won't be at that one in Japan.
I will not be in Japan either. I think that we were talking about this before the show started. Of when people are like, "What do you guys do now that football season's over?" And we're like, "There's so many things happening." But I do think that it is a little tiny bit of a down period for just people that are football fans strictly. If you're just a football fan, then this time is probably where
Next
you're
week,
just.
you've got the combine.
That's why they're just this week. They're like, get us through this week, and then the combine starts, and you can just full on go into your mock draft season and start mocking all of these players that you want on the Jags. So it is interesting though, because for baseball fans and for you who watch literally everything.
I don't watch
gymnastics.
I don't watch as much hockey. But to me though, that's the thing. Like, I love live sports. I don't love lots of other, like, I'm not the biggest reality TV show fan or I don't binge watch any TV shows or streaming shows. So yeah, for me, give me all the live sports. And this time of year, what they call in collegiate athletics is crossover season.
Yeah.
It's the busiest time of year for everyone who works in the athletic departments. But for those of us that are just fans and or media, we get to take in all the fun stuff. Well, we talked about college basketball a little bit earlier with Florida, but today's Terminix Pest of the Day. I know we're all busy, especially all of you who own your own businesses. There's a reason that Terminix handles pest control at Everbank Stadium, Daly's Place, 1-to-1 Financial Ballpark, Vice-Our Veterans Memorial Arena. The list goes on. You don't want to waste your time worrying about pests, so visit Terminix.com, Terminix.com. All right, so in the world of college basketball, and I'm sure you saw this on social media, Illinois decided to retire Terrence Shannon Jr.'s jersey. Shannon broke Illinois' single-season scoring record last season, finishing with 736 points, while leading the Illini to a number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament and a spot in the Elite Eight. That's all great. The problem is, during the jersey retirement ceremony, his jersey was upside down.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
You had one job. Is kind of what I want to say. And I have been a part of an athletics department. We didn't retire any specific jersey numbers when I was at UNF, but we did hang a banner.
Yeah.
And you kind of got to get the banner hung properly. So thankfully, Terrence Shannon Jr. laughed it off.
Yeah.
And I can understand that it's a funny thing. The crowd at first was cheering and then they gasped.
They're like, oh, no.
Right. I have never seen that before. A jersey retirement ceremony gone wrong like that, hung upside down.
Somebody might have been fired.
And that's what immediately everyone was like, someone's going to lose their job. Now, I'm not advocating for anyone to lose their job over this. I'm sure that it took a team of people to try and get it all accomplished. But you sometimes need, checks and balances.
Yes.
And someone needed to be the last person to view the jersey before they took the curtain away and then showed an upside down jersey. Yeah, Illinois. Yeah, you're the pest of the day.
Oh, no. I've never seen that. I've seen where it'll show fans and crowds and like their flags are backwards. And so it'll have like the team, like, whatever the team is, Titans, but it's like the word is backwards. That one, it's okay because they're drunk in the crowd probably and just put the flag on backwards. But when you are retiring someone's jersey, and this is like their moment, this is their moment that probably has been talked about for a while now. Okay, you get your jersey number retired. And those are big deals for a lot of people. And now you got to watch it go upside down.
I mean, at some point in time, that'll never happen again. Or I guarantee that the Illinois athletic department is on edge for a while. But I guarantee we never again see a jersey go upside down. I mean, it's one thing to misspell something. I understand that. I think
like Eagles.
Right. And especially if you're like in a graphics department, like I understand misspellings can happen, whatever. But upside down, like that to me is just one of the most obvious ones that you got to get right. By the way, speaking of college basketball, I told you earlier there are 4 number 1 seeds: Auburn, Alabama, Duke, Florida. People were wondering if it would be 4 SEC teams as the 4 number 1 seeds. No, Tennessee hasn't held up its bargain. The number 2 seeds, a couple more Southeastern Conference teams: Texas A&M, Purdue, Tennessee, and Houston, and then 3 seeds: Wisconsin, Iowa State, Arizona, Kentucky. So another SEC team in there. And then the 4 seeds: Texas Tech, Kansas, St. John's, and Michigan. Everyone loves the St. John's story with Rick Pitino. But fascinating to see, to me, what happens of A&M, Tennessee, and Kentucky down the stretch. Because A&M, I think, is doing better than anyone thought. Tennessee they started off so hot and then they've kind of plateaued a little bit. And Kentucky, to me, has had a really up and down season in this first season.
Is it since Florida that they've kind of plateaued? Like, did Florida figure them out?
Against Kentucky or Tennessee? Yeah, they have had a couple good games since then. But yeah, I would say Florida certainly shook them. That's for sure. But then again, Tennessee came back to beat Florida. So it hasn't all been that game. But I think when you have transfers that you depend on week in and week out, sometimes that works out for you, and other times the transfers, the team as a whole don't play as well because they're not as accustomed to one another. Although this late in the season they should be.
Yeah, this is a little bit off of topic, but it reminded me of that as you're talking about the transfers and the newness and stuff like that. And we've talked a ton about the Packers being, as we were talking about the Packers, potential new GM candidate here, but how they've built. And I saw this graphic yesterday, and it was like each NFL's team percentage of first and second round picks that are their starters on their team, that were the starters on their team for this last year. It's fascinating to look at as you go through. So the number 1 in the league is the Bears. They had 91% of their players they had drafted in the first and second rounds. The number 2 is the Eagles at 90%. Number 3 is the Saints at 80%. Number 4 is the Steelers at 80%. The Bucks at 5th with 80%. I guess tied for 4th with the Steelers. And then behind that is the Colts, Chargers. The Jags come in at 12th, which is 69% of their starters are guys drafted in the first and second rounds. And so it's weird though, because we've talked so much about how the draft is not a science, and how you do need a good balance of hitting on free agents and hitting in the draft. And this is something like Shad Khan talked about this last offseason, where he does want to start having more homegrown talent and it not be
that's cheaper.
Yeah. And you also don't want to have to go into every offseason and have to make these big signings and free agency. You want to be able to build through and develop guys, because number one, you have a good coaching staff then if you're drafting, developing, and they're continuing to grow, and then you get second contracts, and it's probably still a little expensive once you have to get to those second contracts with some of these guys, but there's no
rhyme or reason.
There's no correlation to success and not success when it comes to this. So as I mentioned, the top 5 were Bears, Eagles, Saints, Steelers, Bucks, and Colts. The bottom 5 were the Commanders, the Raiders, the Vikings, the Niners, the Dolphins. So as I'm looking at this list, I was like, there was no, okay, if you only had 30, like the Commanders only have 36% of their roster were first and second round picks. And we kind of know they did patch up some holes in free agency this last year, and they drafted Jaden, and they're like, what can we do to just fix this as quick as possible? And I've mentioned the stat that they have one of the highest number of guys hitting free agency this year too. So that's probably a problem for some of these guys. But you look at these teams, and some of the good teams don't have a lot of their first and second round picks playing, and then some of the worst teams in the league do. And maybe that's because they're young and you're still needing some of these guys to develop. The Packers are right in the middle of the pack. We know that their youngness. But it was just fascinating when I saw this graphic, because I was like, we always talk about wanting to draft right, but there's no direct correlation that that's successful.
Yeah, I'd want to go further and wonder the position groups, like the teams that are successful, which position groups do they have as the youngest?
The highest hit rate too for when they're drafting?
Right. Obviously the Eagles would fall in that category. Not just because they won the Super Bowl. We've talked about their really good draft
defensively,
for years.
Yeah. And trenches, I guess, in general.
Yeah, and so that's what I'd be fascinating to see, like the offensive line, how young are the successful teams' offensive line. Same with defensive line. Like, I do think the best teams have a mixture of young guys, certainly, but also those veterans that have seen everything and also can
have had the experience in those big moments too.
We thought that was going to happen here with the guys that the Jags brought in as free agents from successful franchises. We thought that
they've all seen the playoffs, and
right, that they'd be able to pick this team up when they face adversity, and that certainly didn't happen. Yeah, I think with the Jaguars, as far as the draft is concerned, when you look at, for instance, just last year's class, we know Brian Thomas Jr., A+. Mason Smith only started 5 games. Not saying he didn't play in more. He played in 11, but he only started 5. So that also can be skewed by this. Jarian Jones played in 17 games, only started 4. Javon Foster, 0 starts. Jordan Jefferson, 0 starts. DeAndre Prince, 0 starts. Keelan Robinson, 0 starts. Miles Cole, 0 starts. And then Cam Little played in all 17 games. I don't know if you can consider started for a kicker, but that's where that can be skewed too. If Jarian Jones we're excited about.
Oh, yeah.
But if he only started in 4 games, then as far as
that's what I don't know what exactly they're tracking.
Their parameters
in that sense.
are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I know when you go through this roster, you're talking about obviously a Trevor and a Travis Etienne. I don't think even a Britton Strange would count because Evan Ingram is your number 1 tight end, so I don't even know if that would be counted in this. But a Tyson Campbell and an Andre Sisco, some of those guys who obviously Sisco ended up getting benched, but is probably counted in this number. Well, no, when was Sisco drafted? He was
3 years ago.
Yeah. But so it is interesting. But to your point, I would like to see even more in depth of what they mean about if they start 4 games, is that counted as a starter, or do they need to start the majority of the season?
Yeah. And so with 17 games, there's not a direct even split. So maybe it is you have to start 9 games. They need to put out more information.
I know. I need more on this.
We've got 1 segment to go. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on a Big Chief Tire Monday. Find them online at wekeepjacksrollin.com on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Living life on the edge of your seat.
Are you kidding me?
Your front row seat for play-by-play.
Break it free, they're not going to catch you.
1010XL.
Mia here. Presidents throughout America's history have all had to deal with budgets, right? And that's how I know they would love the big-time savings during the President's Day weekend sale going on now at Arlington Toyota Pre-Owned. This is one budget-friendly sale in a big way. Like 0 down and just $288 per month for a pre-owned 2022 Toyota Corolla. Or you choose a pre-owned 2021 Camry, RAV4, or Tacoma for 0 down and only $388 per month. But that's not all. Arlington is also offering you no payments till July 2025. You heard that right. No payments till July 2025. Plus, Arlington's lot is packed with over 600 vehicles in one location. And you get 60 days to love your purchase or exchange it and help from the Credit for Everyone program. But don't wait. Get into Arlington for the President's Day sale ending today. Shop in person on Atlantic Boulevard, just a quarter mile east of 295, or online anytime at arlingtontoyota.com. Visit arlingtontoyota.com/save for details.
You need a mechanic you can trust? Call Sam, Harry, or Joe at AA Automotive on Richard Street. From oil changes to complex engine repairs, AA Automotive promises expert service and honest pricing from a local family biz. AA Automotive on Richard Street.
Do you have clicking, popping, swelling, or pain in your knee or shoulder? This can be due to arthritic changes in your joints. Over time, you have wear and tear of your cartilage. I am Dr. George Bari, and here at Bari Orthopedics, we have numerous ways to treat your arthritis, such as regenerative medicine, including PRP and joint replacements with CT guidance for accuracy down to the millimeter. If you are experiencing any of these symptoms, call us for an appointment today, or log on to BariOrthopedics.com.
Find out more at BariOrthopedics.com. That's BAHRI Orthopedics.com. Joe C. for Hard Rock Bet. Football season may be over, but there's plenty of action everywhere else. Not sure what to bet on? Check out the Discover page at Hard Rock Bet. You can download the app or head to hardrock.bet. College basketball, we're closing in on the biggest tournament of the year. Don't go in blind. Bet on the action today. Hard Rock Bet. Download the app. Offered by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. Must be 21 plus and physically present in Florida to wager. Terms and conditions apply. Concerned about gambling? Call 1-888-ADMIT-IT.
It's a Helmets and Heels Big Chief Tire Monday.
It's game time for your business, and Advanced Business Solutions has the winning play. With Xerox copiers, you'll never miss a deadline. Fast, reliable, and built for high performance, Xerox copiers keep your team ahead of the competition. From printing to scanning, Xerox brings the MVPs of efficiency to your office. Ready to make the winning move? Hire the champions at Advanced Business Solutions. Veteran owned.
Printers, copiers, and IT management. Advanced Business Solutions.
We don't have too many cold nights on the First Coast, but when the temperature drops, you want to hit the heat button and warm up. That's where Florida Home comes in. They're the AC experts in Jacksonville, and the importance of keeping your heating system in good working order is really important. If it stops working when it gets cooler, Florida Home will leap into action and provide you with the best solution. Heater and heat pump repair service and new system installation. They do it all. Just call Florida Home AC at 777-4300, the official heating and AC partner of the Jaguars.
Hello, I'm attorney Malcolm Anthony. Being charged with domestic violence can turn your life upside down. If you're in trouble, call me, Malcolm Anthony, at 285-4LAW. That's 285-4LAW.
If fishing is in your DNA, hop in the boat with Captain Kevin. It's the Ring Power Fishing Forecast Show, brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss and Royal Pest Services.
Thursday nights at 6
on 1010XL AM.
Before termites attack your home or business and cause costly damage, Terminix it. At Terminix, we know how to stop termites. These destructive pests have been around for millions of years, but before they show up, so do we. And their time is up. Don't live with a termite problem? Terminix it. Visit Terminix.com today to schedule a free inspection online. That's TERMINIX.com. TERMINIX.com. Terminix it.
Hi, I'm Mac with Baker Glass. Are you tired of wrestling with your old shower curtain? Then say goodbye to the curtain chaos and hello to a new frameless shower enclosure. Wago Glass is clear, classy, and won't stick to you like a toddler at bedtime. Plus, it makes your bathroom look bigger and brighter. Upgrade your shower experience and step into style. Call me at Baker Glass and get ready to love your new glass shower enclosure. Baker Glass, no one treats you better.
Hey, Hicken here, or just call me Dreamfinders Danny. For a limited time to ring in the new year, Dreamfinders Homes is offering an amazing 4.99% fixed interest rate. Now's your chance to lock down that rate and get in the game. You heard me right. It's 4.99 fixed interest rate on select move-in ready homes. Visit dreamfindershomes.com for sales event information and get in the game. Interest rate available on select move-in ready homes. Restrictions and limitations apply. Go to dreamfindershomes.com for more details.
At Cannons of Jacksonville, they know that when you're towing anything, you gotta have products you can rely on. With over 50 years of fabrication expertise, the family at Cannons can repair or install precisely what you need to tow with confidence. Whether it's a heavy-duty hitch, trailer frame, gooseneck, tow bar, or any other towing accessory, Cannons will provide you with unmatched precision and durability. For all your towing needs, visit cannonsofjacks.com, where quality and customer satisfaction collide.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Now the cool down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since '87.
I saw an interesting thing today and we'll have more conversations about this obviously when combine and we start to approach free agency, but the Athletic did a list of potential NFL salary cap cuts for all 32 teams. Some of the names on this list this year are big names. Two that pop off to me is Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams. Those are two really big wide receiver names that you talk about that a team may have to just cut to give them an extra $10-14 million.
That's why they're trying to trade Cooper Kupp.
Yeah. And Christian Kirk was on the list for the Jaguars as their potential one. This isn't saying obviously it could happen. It was going through I think it was $10.4 million or something like that. They save if they in that cap. They would save with the salary cap cut if it was Christian Kirk here. But I do feel like we're seeing a little bit more, and we talked about this in last week when we were talking about free agency too, Lauren, where we were saying you were starting to see a little bit more bigger names be. I feel like free agency used to be like, okay, he couldn't barely make the team over there, so now that he's hitting free agency and that's your choices. We've seen some bigger names the last couple years in free agency and now in salary cap cuts that teams are having to figure out because these contracts now are just getting so big, especially if you have a quarterback.
For sure, that's the big change. But I also think it's those types of free agent lists. They're done this early to make those splashes, but for the most part, a lot of teams will restructure with the player, and so then they never get to that point.
I don't know if these three may not.
Those may not.
I could see Cooper Kupp being traded. I've heard Devontae wants to go if Aaron goes somewhere else, but also in general, why would you want to stay with the Jets at this point? Like you went there for Aaron Rodgers and then now not. And then Christian Kirk, I could see as a discussion here in Jacksonville, depending obviously what Liam Cohen sees and what he believes is best moving forward. And so it is three names that I would not be shocked if all three are on different teams next year.
Yeah, the Devontae Adams one wouldn't surprise me in the least. And at 34, he did have 7 touchdowns this season, but I don't know if teams want to invest long-term in someone like that. Since you mentioned Aaron Rodgers, I saw that he pled with the Jets. He was pleading with them to stay.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, on the team for the next year or two, and they basically said, no. Thanks. And then this is according to Albert Breer, he then went into the darkness for a few days. I don't know that it was necessarily the same darkness or if it was just he went dark for a few days. I'm not sure. But I found that interesting. That reminds me of that Temptation song, Ain't Too Proud to Beg. Yeah. And that was Aaron Rodgers. There was also a report over the weekend that the Jets would be interested in trading with the Jags to move ahead of the Raiders.
I saw that too,
Yeah, in order to get the quarterback that they desire. The whole thing with these quarterbacks is fascinating because we've talked to so many draft analysts on air. We've read off air that
they're like boring.
The quarterbacks are not that exciting. But when you're a desperate team for a quarterback, does that make you go to desperate measures? That's interesting. So then the report about the Jets were leading people to think like Garrett Wilson might be a part of the trade package. And so then Trevor Lawrence would have Brian Thomas Jr. and Garrett Wilson. Other people would want T. Higgins from the Bengals since, like we talked about, the fact that Trevor's already played with him for 2 years. But the Jaguars, in my opinion, are going to have another receiver that's going to start that's not on this roster. That's what I think, because I guess I don't have a lot of faith in Gabe Davis, even though I thought he was great with the Bills. I'm just not sure what the future holds for him. And so I think there will be another receiver. I'm assuming Christian Kirk is on this team, and it's BTJ, Christian Kirk, and someone else. I'm assuming Evan Ingram's on the team, so he's a starter too. But obviously all that has to shake out. We did talk about the general manager search and how it continues for the Jaguars. There are 5 finalists that they will begin interviewing Wednesday morning in person. Bears assistant general manager Ian Cunningham, Rams director of scouting strategy James Gladstone, Packers vice president of player personnel John Eric Sullivan, Jaguars interim general manager Ethan Waugh, and 49ers director of scouting and football operations Josh Williams. I'll say what I said earlier, Taylor. The John Eric Sullivan one of the Packers is really intriguing to me because he's a guy that wasn't on the Jaguars' initial list of interviews. I'm not sure why that is, but he wasn't. And then also the fact that he has the relationship with Anthony Campanile from their time together with the Packers, and that he's been in this organization, the Packers organization, that is for so long, since 2004. That's 20 years of experience in seeing how things operate, and the Packers do such a good job of drafting. So that one to me is really intriguing. But of course, I think the fans have pretty much circled their wagons around either James Gladstone or even Ian Cunningham, because he's a name that they're the most familiar with. Most people do not want Ethan Waugh, but if he's who the Jags end up with, then I think because the process has been so thorough, then that means that they landed a great GM.
Yeah,
Or
I
at
think a
least the
lot of people would be, I feel a lot of fans, I think, would be very underwhelmed by that if they kept Ethan Waugh. And I think that with the James Gladstone one, that one, because of the clips of him talking, and you do feel like you have a little more insight on him because of the Jared Verse and Braden Fisk conversation. And those are two names people are familiar with anyways, and then two names that had really, really incredible years. And the way that he kind of worked the room in all of the clips that you've seen of him, people gravitate towards that.
And the Rams have been great at drafting.
Yes. And even when they haven't had much to draft, like they still are able to find guys in the draft, even when they went years without even having a first round pick, or when they only had 4 and 5 picks in the draft. And we've had years here in Jacksonville where you have 13 picks and you can't even hit on 3 of the 13. And that is a problem. It's been a serious issue here. So seeing guys like this, and that's why I personally like the list. I don't want Ethan Waugh. Not that I completely have anything totally against him. I just want I want everything from the former gone. I think it's time. There's a lot of things that I feel like will just kind of bleed through if it's the same person. And I like the energy of a lot of these other guys. And so the rest of the list I am very intrigued by, but there's only so much you can know about these guys. And like I said, how much of their hands were on certain things. A lot of these guys had those scouting positions. And when you look at any of these, almost every single article is like, organization's going to miss them. They've been a big part in a lot of these draft picks in the last 3, 4, 5+ years. And those are things you do want to hear, that they were massive components of successful drafts elsewhere.
Right, but it's such a collaborative process.
Yeah,
it's not.
And that's why, how much? I want to know the conversations they were like, this guy right now, I want this person, and that's why I think the Gladstone thing has gone so well, because he was all about those 2 players, and those 2 players have really worked out in this first year. And so I do think people like to see that, because it is hard to tell how much they had a say in. But there is a lot of people in this room, a lot of scouts, and a lot of voices that are being heard when it comes to the draft process.
Right, and not every play is a player elite in college. And so you do have to figure out when they're taking plays off, or if you have to try and figure out if they ran the wrong route, why is that?
Yeah.
And defensively, are they going to be strong enough? Like we talked about with Travis Hunter and having to put on weight. Certainly that applies to a guy like Abdul Carter. People wonder if he's a little bit undersized. And you have to figure out, are they going to fit your system? Which obviously the Jaguars now have a new offensive system, a new defensive system. The only thing that remains the same is Heath Farwell. I mean, even in my household, like when we watch football, I can't tell you am I the first person to say I love Brian Thomas Jr., or did Brian say I love BTJ, right? Because you watch football together, and that's what happens with all these guys too. But I do think John Eric Sullivan, also the fact that his dad was a Jaguars wide receivers coach for about 4 or 5 seasons here in Jacksonville. So there's a familiarity that was when Shad Khan was the owner. So there's a familiarity there as well. And it's just going to be exciting that the GM search will be finished before the combine, because when Shad first gave us the deadline date of February 28th, I know people kind of laughed at the time, like, oh, that's plenty of time. And now that we sit here on February 17th, that is in 11 days.
Yeah. One interesting nugget, too, that I don't even think we've talked about on this show, but Liam Cohen and Ian Cunningham share the same agent. I don't think we've mentioned that here, which is interesting, too. But not saying that means Ian Cunningham's getting this job, but I do think that we've talked about some of the relations that these players have. And when you share an agent, there is a little bit of extra of an incentive, and the agent made sure that Liam Cohen was here. So it will be.
That's true. The agent was a big part of Liam Cohen leaving Tampa and coming to Jacksonville. At the time, obviously thought that he was here surreptitiously, but someone gave him up and told the Bucs that he was in town in Jacksonville. The Bucs were not pleased because he had a clause in the contract that he had not yet signed. but the contract that was going to make him the highest paid offensive coordinator, the clause was you can't take a second interview with Jacksonville. And so that was a little murky, but I think Liam Cohen's Duval made everyone forget about that process, or at least push that to the background. And then the silliness of that Duval came a little bit more to the forefront. What I'm excited about is once the GM's in place, then the combine happens, certainly then free agency happens, then the draft. We then, towards the beginning of May when the schedule comes out, obviously we'll do our schedule or our record predictions, but we'll then get a better idea of the identity of this team based off of the players that they've added. And this team has to take great leaps in order to be a team that makes it to the postseason next year. Who are those guys that we can identify that are going to be the biggest strengths of this team moving forward? We're going to focus so much on the O-line and D-line.
Oh, yeah.
That's I can tell you right now that's going to be key. Even if there is a sexy pick at receiver or DB, we're going to spend a lot of time breaking down how the trenches are going to improve.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of disappointed people if after the draft there's not 4 new guys on the trenches, and that both sides of the ball, obviously, because I just think at this point we've ran it back. We've had these conversations of some of these guys are in the tail end of their career. Some guys we've hoped we're going to develop, and it just hasn't worked that way. Some guys we haven't really even seen. Javon Foster, we don't really know yet what he can be. Walker Little, we will see. We've had that conversation of how Liam Cohen feels about that. But I think there's going to be a lot of disappointed people here if in May we're not saying, okay, there's 4 new guys on in the trenches, whether it's 2 and 2 or 3 and 1 or whatever the case may be, because that's an area of high concern, and we've seen how much it's affected so many aspects of the Jaguars not being able to do a lot of things when it comes to protecting Trevor, when it comes to running the ball, when it comes to stopping the run, when it comes to third down and red zone defense and third down and red zone offense. All of those things have factored so much into those trenches. So I think that is something that everybody is going to be just pounding the table about.
Right. The Javon Foster, as I mentioned earlier, he played in 4 games, but 0 starts. Jordan Jefferson played in 8 games, 0 starts. Miles Cole played in 8 games, 0 starts. How much evaluation does Liam Cohen's staff have of these guys?
Yeah, how much?
And so I wish that they had played more so that we would have gotten a better idea, so that they would have a better idea, so that way they know if they want to move forward with these guys or if they want to replace them, whether that's the draft or elsewhere. All right, let's say hello to XL Primetime.
Now, the 2-minute drill. Serviced by Cool Cats Heating and Cooling. Locally owned and operated. We're your neighbors. Find the coolest cats in town at coolcatsjacks.com.
So much happening over the weekend, Joe. Ludwig Ober wins the Genesis Invitational. Florida men's basketball gets Micah Hanlogton back. I loved all the tweets that were like, Micah and Elijah return. I'm like, this is totally different. Elijah Martin barely missed a few games with the hip pointer. Micah Hanlogton's been out since last year.
Yeah, and they thought, remember they said, okay, he's starting to ramp back up. They thought he might be able to come back. And then they said, no, we're just going to go ahead and keep it to where he fully redshirts. And then he comes back. And maybe it was in part because of some of the injuries that they had. But anyway, that guy is fun, okay? Number one, just energy-wise, he just brings it. And then obviously that adds to that rotation because they were a light rotation, only going 7 deep. And getting him back as far as the force inside and everything and energy, huge for them.
And Ludwig Ober.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that? How'd you feel about the McNeely? Do you think he got everyone? Do you think Scheffler got in McNeely's head a little bit and he was more worried about him than Ober?
He might have. It's so funny. Scotty has been building it back since the ravioli injury with the wine glass. Yes. And little by little, he started to show like he's starting to ramp up. And so then on Saturday, he starts to make a move. I think 4 birdies in the first 9 holes, I believe. Anyway, he fell apart on the back 9 and shot a 76. He was 10 shots worse on Saturday than he was on Sunday. But Oberg just by himself started charging. And it was just a great story. Lives here in Ponte Vedra, which is pretty cool. And we're talking about if he gets it rolling, he is a carefree, really, really solid ball striker that is not slow. I love that about him. And he will make the game fun if he can start to challenge Scotty, which would be great.
And were you watching last night when Priest went flying through the air? It's crazy how safe NASCAR is, that nobody blinked an eye. I'm here watching, worried for his safety, and they obviously are not.
I do have to give them a lot of credit because in the beginning, everyone was freaking out. about it's a dangerous sport, number one, and then they tried to make it so safe where these guys are so insulated. But in the end, that's what you need for them to still be able to put on a show and bounce off of walls instead of
flip.
They need to redistribute the force, and that's basically what they did with those soft walls and everything like that, and the Hans device and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was incredible to see those 3,000-pound machines flying all over the place.
I do love how they're just so open with their hate for one another, like the drivers hating one another, and also even like calling the NASCAR officials out. Like you just don't see that in other sports.
Well, it's fine because they're a little desperate right now. Okay, they need as many eyeballs as they possibly can get.
Well, they ruined a little bit of, I feel like, the eyeballs watching with how the weather and everything like that. But that's it happens. What's coming up?
Well, we're going to get into all that over the weekend, and then also the idea that the college football playoff, they can't stand it, okay? They had 1 year of a dozen. Now they want to expand it, or at least after the second year, they'll expand it. So we'll get into that. Matt's all over that story, and we'll, of course, talk Jaguars GM and everything else.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Joe.
All right.
We'll be listening. All right, happy President's Day, everybody. For Taylor Dahl, for the Vacationing Mia O'Brien, for RJ Saunders, which, by the way, tonight, 6 to 8 p.m., open gym. We talked a little bit of NBA earlier. Make sure you tune in tonight, 6 to 8 p.m. I'm Lauren Brooks. Don't go anywhere. XL Primetime is next. These heels are made for talking. We will talk to you tomorrow.